from the Spit Studios in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. This is the Spit Sports Show. We made it! I am so happy right now to be talking about an upcoming NFL week. I've been looking forward to this moment for the past 4 months. In fact, I need to take 1 second here just to savor it. Moment savored. We are so back, and we are so back giving you Spit's picks, which was a documented 61% against the spread last season. We are out here trying to make you, our loyal viewers, the most amount of money that we possibly can. All of these bets I am personally making myself. This is obviously not financial advice. Don't sue me. That's not what this is, but this is going to be a lot of fun. We've got an incredible slate for week one. Very, very few duds. I am a little bit disappointed at the 10 a.m. window on Sunday. There's only like 2-3 games that I'm really fired up about, but it's better than 0 games to be fired up about. One of the games that most people are probably most fired up about, Bills-Ravens on Sunday Night Football. And my first pick for Spit's picks this season is going to be the Buffalo Bills minus only a point versus the Ravens. My logic for this is really, really simple. And yeah, really simple, not hard. We saw this matchup already. We just saw it as the Ravens' last game in the playoffs 7 months ago. And despite what the final score is going to say, and despite the Mark Andrews fumble and the Mark Andrews drop and all of the chaos that happened in the second half, the Bills dominated the majority of that game. The Ravens had one drive where they ran it down the Bills' throat for, I think, like 9 straight plays for a touchdown. And again, they almost made a fantastic comeback. But the Bills did look better in that game. And when you look at their off seasons that they had coming into this year, neither team made very big moves whatsoever. The Bills signed Josh Palmer, who I do like as kind of a wide receiver 3. He's got some versatility to him. They added 5 new defensive players in the draft. I think 2 of them are going to be starters. 3 of them could get into the game. They should be some impact players. But you look at the Ravens, they really didn't do much of anything either. They lost a starting guard, but they did draft Malachi Starks, who I think is going to be awesome, and Mike Green, who I think has some potential. So those guys could be impact players week one as rookies. My main problem with this game is the spread itself. If you guys aren't familiar with gambling, and this is the first Spitz picks of the season, so I'm going to kind of bring you all in. The game is in Buffalo, and typically home field advantage in Vegas will give you about a 2.5 to a 3-point edge straight off the bat. So with Buffalo being only a point favorite in this game, Vegas is saying that the Ravens are the better team, but the Bills are at home. So considering that, I don't agree with the fact that the Ravens are better than the Bills currently. Again, we saw this matchup not very long ago when the offseason additions weren't big time by any stretch of the imagination. Both teams, they were pretty minute. I don't see why the Bills shouldn't be favored by that 2.5, 3 points to where it would just be a pick 'em. They're not. They're only favored by 1. I'm taking the Bills in this game as the first Spitz pick. Second pick. The Las Vegas Raiders are getting 2.5 points versus the New England Patriots. Again, this game is in New England, so Vegas is basically calling this a pick 'em. I very much so disagree with that. Starting on the defensive side of the ball for both teams, I do think New England's defensive personnel is better than the Raiders' defensive personnel. I think New England's got like the 17th best defensive personnel in the NFL. I think the Raiders are somewhere close to like that 28, 27 mark. Both units should be pretty well coached, though, by their 2 new defensive-minded head coaches. But the difference in this ball game to me is going to be on the offensive side of the football, which early in the season has a lot more variances. The defenses are usually very much so ahead of the offenses early in the year. So any offensive edge is going to be that much so exemplified in early weeks. And I think Las Vegas's offense is going to come out with a rocket under their butt this first week. Whereas I think New England is going to struggle big time on offense. Straight up, I don't see any explosive playmakers on this team whatsoever with a quarterback who his game is predicated, I think, a lot on making explosive plays, both with his arm and his legs. Their offensive line is a whole lot of patchwork and question marks. Whereas, again, you look at Las Vegas, I think they are going to be revitalized with the new quarterback play that they have in the building with Geno Smith. Brock Bowers might be already the best tight end in football. I think Ashton Genty, this preseason nonsense where he only rushed for like a yard, I think he's going to be just fine. I think Jacoby Myers is one of the more underrated receivers in the entire NFL, especially again with Bowers taking a lot of the attention. I know they play different positions, but let's be honest, these days, tight end is more of a hybrid receiver than it is, a blocking guy. I think the Raiders are flatly the better team in this game, and they're the underdogs. So, again, very, very straightforward logistical thinking would tell me the Raiders here is a really, really good spot at plus 2.5. The next game I have is a big number, and I typically don't like taking big numbers, especially the favorites with big numbers, but I'm going to swallow the 6.5 points with Arizona over the Saints this week. If this number was a flat 7, I would probably stay away from it. But at 6.5 without the hook, I really, really like this number because to me, the Cardinals are going to be one of the more frisky, underrated how did they get good really quick teams of this year. I think their defense is going to be completely revitalized. They signed Josh Sweat and Calais Campbell to start getting that pass rush a bit more force, which has been a huge issue since Jonathan Gannon got there. I think Will Johnson out of Michigan, the cornerback, is going to be the steal of the draft. He was looking like he was going to be maybe a top 10 pick before he went down with an injury last season. Arizona got him in the second round last year. I think their defense is going to be awesome. Kyler typically gets off to really hot starts in his career. That's been the history of it. He kind of drifts off towards the end, but comes out swinging. I think Marvin Harrison Jr., this is a prove it year for him. Trey McBride, same thing. I'm very excited to see if these guys are able to live up to, well, their fantasy football projections, but also just their overall talent level. I think, on the other hand, what's a interesting way to say this? I think the Saints are the worst team in the league, and I don't see how they cover a full 6.5 when they don't even get the hook on the 7. I think the Cardinals win this game comfortably by like 14 points. I'll swallow the 6.5 with the Arizona Cardinals. Again, for this next pick, typically stay away from big numbers, and if I do, I'll bet on the underdog, which is exactly what I'm going to do in this spot with the Cowboys plus 7.5 against the Philadelphia Eagles in the first game of the season. Now, listen, I want to make this very, very clear. I am a believer in the Arizona Cardinals this season. I am a believer in the Vegas Raiders this season. So far, obviously, I'm a believer in the Bills. The teams I've talked about so far, I think, are going to have good regular seasons. I don't think the Cowboys will. I think they're going to be bad this year, but I love them in this spot. First of all, on the football field, adding Kenny Clark to this Cowboys team, although it does not come close to replacing Micah Parsons and will make them worse throughout the season as compared to having Micah Parsons, it will help in this specific matchup more than probably any matchup Dallas is going to have this year because the Eagles' run game, although the outside zone runs are what we talk about because they're the big explosive pop plays, it's really set up with that interior. And not having, having Kenny Clark in that spot at nose tackle, I think is going to make it a bit tougher for Philly to establish that run game. And just narratively coming into this game, I think all momentum is actually on Dallas's side. I think there will be a huge chip on their shoulders for this game. They have just gone through 3 months of constant attention, criticism, questions, all surrounding Micah Parsons, who already before that started a lot of concerns, questions around the team with his podcast comments, and it's been reported that some of his teammates thought he was a bit self-centered and selfish. So I just wonder if there is a collective sigh of relief from Dallas where they just think to themselves, oh, so now we can actually play football and focus on the Eagles instead of all of the circus act surrounding the team, which adds to the fact that coming into this game, there is no pressure on the Cowboys whatsoever. They're playing the defending champs. They just lost their best player. The media has spent the last 2 months making fun of their GM and owner. People are counting them out for the season. I see no reason why Dallas can't go into Philly with that no one believes in us, chip on our shoulder kind of attitude, and at the very least keep it close. 7.5 points is a lot. This is not a college football game. These are pro football players. Philly is also going to be playing 4 to 5 new starters on their defense this game. I think that Philly's defense is going to be really good this season. I don't have many doubts about that. First game out, though, could be a bit shaky. I think Dallas getting 7.5 is an insane number, and I'm going to take it and run with it. My last pick. Now, people are going to potentially call this not biased, but, a bit of prejudice here, but this is both heart and head going into this pick, and I'm picking Detroit plus 2.5 at Green Bay. So with the rules of Vegas that I've spat out before, 2.5 basically thinks Vegas, excuse me, 2.5 basically makes it seem like Vegas thinks this is a pick 'em. And it very well might be. Not without a fully healthy not without a fully healthy Micah Parsons, it's not. It's just not. His back is a real thing. And we thought that this was just some ploy to get him out of his contract and potentially sitting out this season under the umbrella of an injury instead of just holding out where it would have cost him millions of dollars. No, it's real. He's got some issues in his back. It would have been in Dallas if he stayed there a pitch count in week 1 anyways. Schottenheimer said it that way. I see no reason as to why after him switching teams, switching schemes, and still having this injury that he's going to play every snap of the game. I don't see it happening. And again, to bring up Kenny Clark twice in one Spitz pick, shout out to Kenny Clark. I don't think this is ever going to happen again for him. But him leaving gives Detroit a huge edge at running down the middle through the interior, which they usually dominated Green Bay in anyways. I don't see how Green Bay stops Sonic and Knuckles from constantly picking up 4 yards just with halfback dives and traps. Detroit also feels very comfortable in this matchup. They've won 6 of their last 7 versus the Packers. Mike is going to be limited. Detroit's coming out with a chip on their shoulder after losing both coordinators. 2.5 being the underdog in this game. I love Detroit in the spot. 2.5, I really love it. Those are 5 picks for a 5-0 week. I feel great about all 5 of them. Let me know what you guys are betting this week in the comments below. I'm small enough to where I can respond to all comments and love doing so. So let me know if you think my picks are insane. Maybe you think they're awesome. If you do, let me know. If you think they're terrible, also let me know. Please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed what you heard. Please subscribe if you really enjoyed it. The Spit Sports Show just hit over 400 subscribers. Big things happening on this channel. I'll see you all in the next one. Football is back. Peace out. Love you guys.